Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our Cash Tech segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Megan Brantley. She's a VP of Research at LikeFolio. Welcome to the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so we're talking Apple. It's been lagging pretty significantly, off about basically nearly bear market territory, off 20% from those all-time highs that we saw in December. Do you guys have data that kind of supports the weakness that we've seen in this stock as, the overall market's hitting all-time highs?
We do. And, one thing we track is investor sentiment. And I think that, gloomy would be the best way whenever to describe what we're looking at when we look at some of these mentions with Apple. And I think the stock reflects that. As you mentioned, it's down about 16% year to date. And if you look on a chart of ours that compares its stock move versus just overall web visits, which for us is forward-looking and indicative of those hardware sales, it's a little bit flat. It's a little bit lackluster. So this seems to be in line. I will say, though, at LikeFolio, we always love to have a contrarian take, and Apple is no different here. And we do see in mentions that consumers are very interested in what Apple has to say this quarter. They're very interested in what the new iPhone looks like, what Apple's take on AI looks like. Whenever we look at searches for new iPhones or upgrading my iPhone, even though Apple hasn't really put out anything groundbreaking in the last couple of models, new iPhone searches are up significantly year over year. And we see signs of consumers just begging Apple, please give us something new, give us something compelling. We're ready to upgrade. We're ready for the next thing. And so that's kind of what we're watching right now. We don't see consumers fleeing the Apple ecosystem en masse. This is still a monster. It's got an iPhone in nearly every pocket. And the reason that I think that iPhone, hope and that iPhone demand is important for Apple is because this is still the major driver of their revenue. This quarter, Apple brought in about $95 billion in revenue, and about $47 billion of that was via iPhone sales. And so this is still a really important driver for Apple, and it also acts as the doorway to its services department, which is another really important segment that was a little bit weak last quarter. So this is something that we're watching heading into earnings, and hopeful that on this low bar, Apple can deliver some positive news or some guidance for how it plans to incorporate AI into some of its technology. Because so far, at least in the mentions that we're looking at, those who do have Apple Intelligence are a bit underwhelmed. We don't feel like this is a really fleshed out AI strategy. And when you compare that versus, let's say, a Meta that just reported yesterday, you have two totally different takes on AI, two companies on totally opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Apple plays this moving forward.
Megan, this company has to light a fire under investors. Innovation, basically non-existent other than small tweaks, right? The only thing that's growing is services. Their moat is not technology, it's their brand. Like you mentioned, you're in that ecosystem and you can't or don't want to get out. But that's really not spark action among investors like other companies are doing. AI, they seem way behind and they're getting their talent poached. I don't know what they're going to do to ignite some interest in this name. Buying back stock, that should tell me as an investor that they're looking at innovation or investment in anything. It's just a mature company buying back their own stock. They buy a lot of it. Look at the float. It keeps going down. But Megan, what can they do? They need, I say that, unfortunately, we say this a lot on this show when their earnings come out. They need a one more thing moment on this company. Because remember, they tried cars. They tried AI. They keep trying things and they seem to fail more than they get it right. But they have that moat of the ecosystem. What else can they do, Megan, to light a fire under the stock that seems to just be drifting lower?
I really think it hinges on that innovation, like you mentioned. They've done a really good job of building out that ecosystem. I think that last quarter they touted 1 billion paid subscriptions that ultimately stem from having one of those devices, right? Ultimately stem from being in that ecosystem. And can you even imagine the potential implications if they had some of the AI tools that, say, a Meta that has been investing in this heavily and is actually leveraging AI and using AI to improve products internally and externally? So I think that the potential is there. I mean, they have a device, a phone or a wearable or a TV in nearly every pocket, every home. And so you can imagine the implications of if a consumer who wanted to leverage, say, an AI model was able to just pull up their phone and do it directly versus head to a website, having to, incorporate via a third party. Whenever Apple, one thing that Apple is known for is its privacy. And I know that that's a really big concern for consumers. So if they can pull this off, if they have some type of announcement related to how they're going to leverage this, how they're going to truly improve it versus just giving suggestions on writing your text messages better, it's going to be a tough road for Apple moving forward and tough to convince investors that this is an exciting thing, right? And so we're listening for that. We're hoping for that. We see consumers who are hoping for that. That forward-looking demands. Like I said, consumers want to upgrade their iPhone. They want to have that next best thing. And really, the ball is in Apple's court to either deliver that or to completely drop it.
Yeah, Megan, your two charts are kind of dispersed a little bit because you've got web visits for Apple that are down, lower than their stock price. But then on the other one, everybody wants a new phone, but they're maybe not pulling the trigger. Due to the fact that AI is not built into them yet. They're dropping the ball on that one. If you had an earnings score going into this, how do you kind of decipher it? Is it one of those things where you kind of sit there and wait, or are we going to get a surprise? Because remember, people had that pull forward from the tariff concerns as far as pricing on those iPhones. So they're probably going to beat on iPhone sales, but I think the outlook might be a little light.
Yeah, our data is slightly and cautiously bullish. Our score is a 22, based on partially the bar being so extremely low and the way that Apple kind of, kicked the can down the road when it came to improvements with Siri. If Apple can come through, surprise a bit on those iPhone numbers, which our mentions and our demand for iPhone specifically looks like they could, that if they have any other positive news, if they have any type of development to give investors hope, especially when it comes to AI, I think that this could be rewarded. This could surprise. However, if they don't, if they continue to kind of stall on that AI strategy, I don't know that would be rewarded. This would be one that we would want to stay away from.
Yeah, you almost think that all this speculation and rumors swirling that, hey, they should buy Perplexity, they should buy AI because their AI department's just been pillaged by Meta Platforms and others recently at this point. Some good news, Megan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, VP of Research at LikeFolio, breaking down the data. Kevin, the bar's actually low in this one going into earnings. On it, Tim Cook needs some help. Maybe they should stop buying stock back, Kevin, and start investing in M&A. They typically don't do that. That's not something historically we've seen, but maybe it's called for at this point. But you got an example trade for us. Walk us through it.
You just beat me to the punch, Tom. My first thing was going to be stop buying your stock and buy an AI company.
Yes.
Right? That's what Apple needs to do more than anything else. But I'm going to mirror Megan and LikeFolio sentiment. I'm cautiously optimistic. How's that? Very carefully and cautiously is, I think, the way she put it. So, Tom, I'm going to do a complex trade where I sell a cash-secured put. I'm going to sell this week's 200 put, Tom. And then against that, with that credit, I'm going to buy the 1 week, the August 8th, August 1st, 215 call calendar. Now,